Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Good to see you once again, dear students and fellows. This is today's second class for corporate finance. As you are in the loop that we have had a quite good discussion on corporate finance, we discussed the course objectives, we discussed the class rules, some of them, and we talked about the course outline. As you could see on the screen here, we have divided into two parts, plus we have discussed some other parts of the course in details. And we talked about types of business, that according to ownership we have three types of businesses, and according to nature we also have three types of businesses, and we had great details on each and every type of the business that we have. I don't think we need to explain it again, because this was a repeated subject for us. And we talked about financial affairs to have an assignment. I haven't received it yet, and I urgently ask for it to share through a WhatsApp group or in the LMS application that we have. If you remember, we talked about financial affairs, that on daily basis we deal with financial affairs in our daily life one way or the other, and either through directly working in an organization or on a household basis. We deal with small organizations. We talked about finance. We discussed that finance is related to, or it discusses the debit credit issues, the capital market issues, the banking related issues, the money related issues. We discussed financial management, which is the process of planning, organizing, directing, controlling the financial activities of an enterprise. We talked about a corporation. From Cambridge Dictionary, the definition was Oxford and Cambridge, which deals with a large entity, legal entity, which is owned by not only one person but by few people, as a corporation. We talked about a few terms that we will be discussing. The capital budgeting, we said that capital budgeting is the process of planning and managing firms' long-term investments. We talked about which investment opportunity has more value and worth for us. So the capital budgeting techniques that we will be studying in the later classes will be focusing on what technique is best for having more return. And we took an example of a chocolate firm, looking at whether they should invest in the factory or not. This is called the capital budgeting technique. We are actually looking at the budgeting decision whether to take or not. On the other hand, capital structure is what we talked about, how we actually obtain the long-term financing that we need in the organization we work. So the short-term and long-term financing, it both comes under the capital structure that we have. The shares and bonds and etc. are all sources of fund that we have. Now, working capital budgeting, we said that these are the organizations or firms' short-term assets, inventory, and liabilities that are coming into it, and how we actually manage our day-to-day activities in an organization. So that was the whole thing. We took an assignment of what is the difference between finance management and corporate finance. Please do share that, and through LMS or through your WhatsApp group that you have. You may take my number from Tawhidi Sab, inshallah. So today's topic is basically we talk about goals of corporations. We will be also talking about the two goals will be discussed. Then we will be later on discussing the other topic, which is goals of financial management, importance of corporate finance, and then we will be talking about the two types of markets that we have, primary and secondary market, and a little practical example on the primary and secondary market. We will be having a video to watch on this, inshallah. So So you see, the corporation has basically two main goals to have. The organization either tries to get profit, or tries to increase the profit, or tries to have wealth maximization. Profit maximization actually focuses on short-term earnings. And the short-term earnings that you get is actually the profit maximization. You're only looking at having short-term payments. You're not looking at the long-term issue of having, for example, relationships and having a lot of customer. So here you are focusing on the profitability. You are focusing on increasing the profit of an organization that you are working with. Basically, what are the things that we are having in the profit maximization to be focusing on? For example, within this goal, we focus on planning the duration, which means that we take immediate increase of the profit. We focus on this. So we may not need to elect for discretionary expenses like advertising, research, and maintenance. While on the wealth maximization, these things are important. What we mean here is that in profit maximization, we took initiatives. We work on the plannings, which give us a return in short term. We do not focus on advertising expenses. مثلا ما شما در کمپانی بزرگ که ببینین بعد 3 سال 4 سال 5 سال فایده نمیکنن، اما مصارف بازاریابی و مارکتینگ خود و تحقیق خود و دیگه مصارف خود به شکل درست انجام میتن، اما بعد لانگ ترم میخواین که به طویل المدت به وقت بسیار دراز و فایده به دست بیارن. اما the profit maximization was کس مصرف سر این چیزا نمیکنه، زود کار میکنه که زود فایده به دست بیاره و فکر ایزی را نمیکنه که کستومر داینده کتشان باشه. The other part is the risk management. So the planning was done. The risk management under profit maximization, management actually minimizes the expenses and expenditure. So they're actually paying for the hedges that could reduce the organization's risk of profile. So actually they take decisions in the profit maximization. The decisions are basically focused on reducing the risk of loss, reducing the risk of decreasing the profit. So they're basically working on things where they can they can mitigate the risk, and it is only a matter of earning a lot of profit. The other part is pricing. So when management actually decides to maximize profit, increase their profit in profit maximization, they actually put the prices very high. So they keep the prices of their products very high, and while in the wealth-oriented organization or companies, that is vice versa. They actually try to reduce the prices in order to have more market share in the market that they are working in. So what is profit maximization basically doing? They're focusing on the increasing prices in order to get more profit, rather than having the market share or having a focus on the market share. The last part of this is the fourth category that we can define the profit maximization based on, which we can have explanation on, is the capacity of planning. So a profit-oriented business actually, they spend more on its productive capacity to handle the existing sales level and perhaps the short-term sales forecast. While the wealth-oriented, we will be discussing that later on, they actually do projections on long-term capacity of the employees. So profit maximization focuses on the short-term capacity of the employees in order to have more sales in the present. Now, we are done with profit maximization. Profit maximization is a short-term policy. You're focusing on short-term earnings. Sometimes organizations need to take that. While in the wealth maximization, the focus is on increasing the value of the business or corporation over time. It means in long term, you're focusing on earning long-term, for example, profits, more profit, but in long term. You're also focusing on market share, to increase your market share, and not only focus on the short-term wealth. So the attention is also long term, requiring a larger investment, usually in the wealth maximization, because کله چې موږ او تاسو د بازاریابۍ مصرف کوو، کله چې موږ او تاسو لکه دلته هم چې ویلي د مینټیننس او د ریسرچ مصرف کوو، نو حتما موږ ډیرو پیسو ته ضرورت لرو، لارجر انویسټمنټ ته ضرورت لرو، او چې دا شی نه کوي نو عموما کېدای شي چې موږ او تاسو په لنډ وخت کې کم ګټه لاسته راوړو. اما په لانگ ترم کې چې د بزنس د سره ارزش زیاتیږي، ارزش بزنس کتی زیاد میشه و در لانگ ترم که هست شما یک سهم در مارکت به خود جور میکنین. به خاطری که شما ببینید مثلا در افغانستان من بدبختانه باید بگیم کمپانی‌ها کوشش میکنن که در شارت ران خوب پول به دست بیارن، زود اینوستمنت میکنن، کوشش میکنن که از هر جای زود پیسه جمع کنن، اما چی میشه که بزنس در شارت ترم پیش میره اما در لانگ ترم بسیار کم پول پیدا میکنه. باز کمپانی‌های بین‌المللی رو ببینید، مثلا کمپانی‌های اپل و سامسونگ و فور اگزامپل کمپانی‌های دل و دیگه کمپانی‌ها یا چی میکنن پرایسایشون پایین میباشن اما در لانگ ران و میخواین که پول به دست بیارن دیگه زیاد فوکس واسه wealth maximization میباشن، نیزی که با short run پول به دست بیارن. So these are the long term as it requires the company to attain a leadership position, which in turn translates to a larger market share and higher share price, ultimately benefiting all the stakeholders of the company. ببینن یا یک کوشش میکنن که با سطح کار کنن که با سطح لیدرشپ برسه، یعنی دیگه کمپانی ها رو لید کنه. وقتی که ما شما درباره اپل گپ میزنیم آیفون در ذهن ما میاد، آیفون در ذهن ما میاد، باز میگیم که والا آیفون خو لیدری میکلی که کمپانی های سمارت فون هاست، یا اگر سامسونگ گپ بزنیم به خاطر ازی که یا لانگ ترم پالیسی رو جور کردن و با شکل کار میکنن که در مارکت از خود سهم دارن. وقتی که درباره اپل گپ میزنی، آیفون گپ میزنی، در ذهنت میاد یک موبایل بسیار خوب، یک خوب ایمیج جور کردنی به این خاطر. و چیزایی که بسیار مثال موبایل های بسیار محدود بود و قیمت می بود، مثلا موبایل در مورد سونی ریکسن پرایس های زیاد بود اما و wealth maximization استراتژی را اداپت نکردن، به این خاطر زود و از مارکت برآمدن. To be more specific, the universally accepted goal of business entity is to increase the wealth for shareholders of the company, as they are the actual owners of the company who have invested their capital given the risk inherent in the business of the company with the platform. یعنی از هدف اصلی کمپانی و یک بیزنسی که ما شما رن میکنیم همین است که ما شما ولت شیرهولدرها را زیاد بکنیم. خب او هم عموما به همین اساس ولت ماکسیمایزیشن میشه تا که کمپانی به یک جای برسه. ما در افغانستان یک شرکت یک کمپانی را میشناسم که تقریبا 4 سال میشه که کار میکنه، تا هنوز به شیرهولدرهای خود یک روپیه هم نداره. اکسپنشن میکنه، همو تو چند منزل کلان جای جور کرد به خودشان و عالی دیگه کارهایشان هم پیش میبرن، اما شیرهولدرها میگن برو یک دفعه شما کمپانی را برسان دیگه. ایده ولت ماکسیمایزیشن و پروفیت همی است که کاروبار شروع میکنی زود نرخایت بلند میبری تا که خطر هم نمیگیری، تا که زود پیسه به دست بیاری. به شکل خلاص in a very simple way we could say wealth maximization is defined as the management of financial resources aimed to increase the value of the stakeholders of a company, while the profit is increasing the value of the stakeholders. یعنی ارزش سهامدارا را ما ایجاد میکنیم، استیکهولدرایی که در او اینوالو هستن، و profit maximization میبینین از این 4 تا معلوم میشه. It defined as the management of financial resources aimed at increasing the profit of. خلاص فایده زیاد به دست بیارید. Wealth مهم نیست. Wealth focus on increasing the value of the stakeholder of the company in the long run. یعنی long term طویل المدت. چی میکنه؟ پروفیت کمپانی را در شورت ترم زیاد ببره. این خب مسئله اول definition بود، دیگه فوکسش بود، دیگه اول ریسک است. خطر چی است؟ Wealth maximization it considers the risk and uncertainty inherent in the business model of the company. یعنی یا میگن که اگه ما زیاد خطر بگیریم ما زیاد ریترن به دست میاریم. اما ریلیشنشیپ ریسک و ریترن است. The more risk you take, the more return you gain. While in profit maximization, it does not consider the risk and uncertainty inherent. یعنی یا کوشش میکنن که از ریسک خود دور کنن، خطر والا نیست. اگر ریسک گرفته ما تاوان میکنه، اینجا ریسک میگیره زیاد ریترن میاره، اینجا ریسک نمیگیره کم ریترن میاره. امو ریلیشنشیپ ریسک و ریترن است قسمی که ما شما گفتیم. اگر ما شما ببینیم ریسک ان ریترن که است، قسمی که قبلا گفت دادم، ریسک ان ریترن که است ای پوزیتیو ریلیشنشیپ داره. چه قسم داره؟ پوزیتیو ریلیشنشیپ داره. یعنی هدفی است که اگر مثال ما ریسک زیاد بگیریم، مثلا اینجا ما میگیم که یک تیر اینجا بتیم، از اینجا مثال یک چی بگیریم ما شما؟ از اینجا در این شیپ ما شما یک تیر بگیریم که مثلا اگر ما زیاد ریسک بگیریم، در یک جای ما زیاد ریسک گرفتیم، صحیح؟ دیگه ریترن هم چی میشه؟ ریترن هم همون قسم زیاد میشه، شاید شما این رو خواندن باشید، یعنی ریسک ریترن زیاد میشه. و اگر برخلاف ما شما چی کنیم که ما شما ریسک کم بگیریم، صحیح؟ مثلا دیره پایین میاریم، فکر کنیم که ما شما ریسک کم گرفتیم، صحیح؟ این قسم جور کنیم که این قسم بیاریم، یعنی فکر کنیم ما ریسک کم گرفتیم. ریسک که کم گرفتیم چی میشه؟ ریترن ما شما هم کم به دست میاریم. دیگه این ریلیشنشیپ است. حالا قسمی که گفتیم دمو چیم که گفتیم که ذکر کردیم که ما وقتی که در یک جای کار میکنیم ویلت ماکسیمایزیشن استراتژی رو ما اداپت کنیم در کارپوریشن، دیگه ما چی میکنیم؟ پروفیت ما شما های میشه، به خاطر که زیاد ریسک میگیریم ریترن زیاد میاد، و اینجا که کم ریسک میگیریم کم ریترن بر ما میاد. چهارم مسئلهش در مورد یوسیج است. میگن که wealth maximization که است it helps in achieving a larger value of a company's worth which may reflect an increased market share of the company. یعنی یا کوشش میکنن که ارزش دی ارگانیزیشن رو زیاد کنه، مارکت شیرش رو زیاد کنه، ایمیجش رو خوب کنه. اینجا چی میکنه که achieving the efficiency in company's day to day operations to make، یعنی یا کوشش میکنن که کمپانی یک قسم کار کنن که کارهای روزانهش پیش ببره و دیگه چی کنه که به طرف فایده بره. خلاصی چی هست دیگه می چهار نقطه بود که یک اینجا فوکس ای است که استیک هولدرها فایده کنه و به شکل کار کنه که ارزش کمپانی زیاد شوه و ارزش استیک هولدرها و کسایی که دیگه اینترستد هستن و در اینجا که هست یا چی میکنن که پروفیت کمپانی زیاد شوه. فوکس در اینجا که هست ویلت ماکسیمایزیشن ای است که در لانگ ترم ولیوی کمپانی زیاد شوه و اینجا که شورت ترم یا پروفیت به دست بیارن، پیسه به دست بیارن. اینجا ریسک زیاد میگیره تا ریترن زیاد به دست بیاره، این ریسک کم میگیره ریترن کم میاره به دست میاره و اینجا که از کوشش میکنه که مارکت شیر فوکس کنه و اینجا کارهای روزانهشون تا که فایده زیاد به دست بیاره و کارهای همون به اصطلاح همون پول خود به دست بیارن و کم ذره فایده داشته باشه. خب مسئله دیگه the other part is the goals of financial management. As we said that financial management is the planning, organizing, directing, controlling of the financial activities such as the procurement and utilization of funds and etc. that we were focusing on. So similarly here it focusing on it says it plays a critical role in the financial success of a business. It deals with the financial success of a business too. Also it focuses on the key component of the general management of the organization. So specific rules that are included in the financial management are the banking administration systems, which includes the accounting, bookkeeping, accounts payable and receivable, investments. Overall, it deals with the financial financial matters, planning for financial matters, and all of those stuff is inside the financial management. While in the corporate finance, we focus on managing finance of a company because it is a crucial factor for us to focus on it because all the efforts of a business actually leads to maximum profit and minimum spending. In corporate finance, we are trying to maximize the profit, to increase the profit with little spending, not with no spending, you see. In corporate finance, we are basically focusing on maximizing the wealth. That is why we tend to increase the profit by minimizing the spending. That has to be a point to be noted. It also deals with the sources of funds that we have. We talked about the capital structures of a corporation. We talked about the analysis of how to allocate the financial resources. So we can conclude by saying that the importance of corporate finance is available in the decisions that are taken based on the capital budgeting, capital structure, and working capital that we just explained in this first part of the lecture, the capital budgeting, the capital structure, and the working capital that we talked about. Now, corporate finance actually maximizes shareholders' wealth. You see, maximizes, increases the shareholders' wealth. As I said, profit maximization, wealth maximization through long and short-term financial planning. So you are increasing the shareholders' wealth, wealth maximization. You are maximizing their wealth by long-term and short-term planning and implementing various strategies in order to increase the long-term and short-term wealth of an organization. Let me reread that again. You see, the corporate finance focuses on maximizing the profit by minimizing the spending. You increase the profit by using little expenditure on, for example, advertisement, on research, on other spendings, maintenance costs, and etc. But in order to increase the profit, it also deals with sources of funds, the capital structure of corporation, the sources through which they can analyze and allocate the financial resources, right? So it basically takes the decisions based on the capital budgeting, capital structure, and working capital. But in order to maximize the wealth of the shareholder by long and short-term financial planning and using various strategies to do that, right? So that was the we basically discussed the goals of corporation, profit and wealth maximization. In profit maximization, we said we focus on short-term strategies in order to increase profit. We do not do it the advertisement, and we do not do the discretionary expenses, research and maintenance. We do not take risk basically in the profit maximization, and we increase our prices. We focus on short-term capacity of the employees, while on the wealth maximization we focus on long-term capacity. We focus on decreasing the prices. We're focusing on the other parts, like we take more risk in order to increase more return, and we try to increase the capacity in the long run. We invest more on that. And we talked about the financial management, which actually manage the financial resources of an organization, plan for that, organize that properly. And corporate finance focuses on maximizing the profits by minimizing the spending and by maximizing the shareholders' wealth. Now, in the next part, we'll be discussing some of the other parts which you could see in the video that I will be playing right now. So you see, the first part is the overview of corporate finance in the video, which will help you to understand this part more particularly.
Their ultimate goal is to maximize the value of a business through planning and
You see, the ultimate goal of corporate finance is to maximize the value of a business through planning and implementing management resources and taking a lot of risk in order to
implementing their resource categories to invest in, and which business it.
You see, we are actually deciding what project we should actually invest. We should decide about this, earn the highest possible risk-adjusted return,
acquire or to invest in.
Yes.
Their goal is to earn the highest possible risk-adjusted return on those capital investments.
Yes.
The second category is capital financing. With capital financing, the objective is to optimize capital structure, which means the firm will have the lowest weighted average cost of capital. And then finally, there are dividends and return of capital.
It means that we determine how we have to invest.
This is when managers have to decide how and when to return capital to investors if they can't find a good enough use for it in the business.
Yes. يعني یک قسم نیست که ما فقط کپیتال اینوستمنت میکنیم، باز میگیم که مثلا چه قسم مصرف کنیم. این است که چه قسم پس به کسایی که امروز ما سهامدارا هستند که به اون دیویدند و شیر چه قسم ما و شما بتیم برشان.
So in summary, managers in corporate finance are concerned with making capital investments that have high risk-adjusted returns, funding those investments
you take investment,
with the lowest possible cost
and decreasing
and
the
best
cost.
capital structure, and then finally returning capital to investors if they can't earn a high enough risk-adjusted return on it.
یعنی برشان فایده میتیم اگر مثال در wealth maximization فوکس ما باشه، شاید در long run بتیم، اما فایده باید به shareholder.
In the coming lessons, you'll see fit to get value finance. On the one side are corporate.
Now we talk about the two types of markets. Before we come into this, let me show you the two types of markets that we have. For example, we have the primary market. The primary market, as you see, this is a market where securities are created. You see the securities are created in the primary markets, and they are later on traded. We will be discussing on initial public offering or IPO later on. There is a very good example that ABC hires 5 underwriting firms to determine the financial details of its IPOs. Underwriting is that the issue price of the stock. You see, in the primary market, you trade things. You actually determine prices, and you sell your stocks, for example, bonds or etc. in the primary market, right? While on the other hand, the secondary market is a market where, which is also called a stock market, where what we do actually is where we trade the previously issued securities without the issuing company, right? The good example is, for example, the New York Stock Exchange, the Karachi Stock Exchange. We do not have any exchange company, stock exchange company. So secondary market can also be called stock exchange market, and the primary is the initial market where they are created. And we have like auction market. We are not dealing with that. You can read it for yourself. We have dealer market where they deal OTC and other parts of the market which we are not actually dealing with. Now we come back to the players.
There are businesses in all sorts of different industries, and they need capital
So we have like a corporation
to grow and run their operations. On the other side of the capital markets, we have institutions that represent investors. These investors have money that they want to invest in
So institutions are available in the primary
companies.
market.
So capital flows from those investors into the corporations.
Yes, this is how
And
it
in
works.
exchange,
These investors through the institutions they invest.
corporations issue back to the institutional investors bonds.
And in the corporations, in order to use their investments, they use bonds or shares. یعنی چی قسم میشه خب عموما کمپانی یا جون استاک یا کارپوریشن که ما میگیم یا امو ولیو بزنس خود معلوم میکنن. مثال ولیوشان است مثال 3 میلیون دلار یا مثال 300 میلیون افغانی. باز امو یک حصه چا یا امو اینوستمنت کلی خود تقسیم به اسهام میکنن. مثال 300 میلیون است، یک شیرش مثلا 1 میلیون است، 300 شیر اناونس میکنن. باز از طریق شیر مردم چی میکنن؟ اسهام این کمپانی را میخرن و با همون اندازه شریک میشن.
Or shares in their company. In the middle of all this sits the investment bank. And the investment bank, which is also sometimes referred to as the sell side, uses its relationships and its contacts on both sides to facilitate these transactions. So it speaks to the institutional investors and to the corporations and brokers the deal to raise capital and issue shares back to investors. Finally, in addition, firms which are involved
یعنی هدفی است که اینوستمنت بانک ها که است یا فسیلیتیشن میکنن در حیث ترانسفر پول و how to invest in all of that stuff.
in auditing and preparing financial statements for these corporations and are used by the institutional investors.
And these actually performs the audits and yearly reports that are providing support.
So to summarize, we have 4 key players
4 key players are in the primary market.
in
right?
corporate finance that we're going to be concerned with in this course. The first is the corporations.
These are the corporations. First
These are the
player.
companies that need capital. 2
Corporations need capital.
are the institutions.
These institutions.
They represent the investors that have money.
These
3
investors-
are the investment banks. They broker the transactions between corporations and institutions. And then
and they work as a brokers between both.
finally, the 4th is the public accounting firms, which audit and oversee all of the financial information.
Auditors, usually in the organizations we have auditors that are coming in order to check and balance what the expenditures in the organizations in profit or loss on all the reports they're generating basically.
So these are the key players in the primary market where new shares and new bonds are issued
You see, new shares, bonds are
by
issued.
corporations.
while in the secondary, these new shares and bonds are traded, which are created in the primary market, right?
Now let's look at the secondary market. In the
secondary market, they are traded in the secondary market.
Secondary market, you have additional institutional investors or fund managers who want to buy securities of publicly traded companies. And you have some other fund managers who may want to sell their positions in those companies. This is where investors buy and sell on a stock exchange or over the counter using investment banks. And the investment bank...
You see, these people want to buy and these people want to sell. How it is done on OTC, over the counter. Investment banks are basically providing in the secondary market to the buyers and to the sellers to sell, to let them buy and to let them sell their stocks.
Banks have sales and trading departments as well as equity research departments that help facilitate all of these transactions between investors. This is called the secondary market because you'll notice that the corporation, the company that actually issued the shares, is not involved and does not appear anywhere on this page. These transactions are simply happening between investors. So investors are going to the investment banks to help them buy and sell shares in an already publicly traded company. Corporations are only involved in the primary market where they're actually issuing new securities such as new bonds or new...
You see, listen to this.
Corporations are only involved in the primary market where they're actually issuing new securities such as new bonds.
So basically corporations work in the primary market for issuing these securities, as we studied, for the investors through the institutions and through the investment banks. Here,
bonds or new shares.
Here, who is involved? The investment banks. The investment banks are investing, allowing these two parties, the buyers and the sellers, to buy or sell their shares.
Let's take a closer look at the types of participants in capital markets. There are two main categories, as you recall, from the primary market: investors and corporations. Within investors, we can further break them down into retail and institutional. Retail investors consist of high net worth individuals, and institutional investors can include mutual funds, pension funds, private equity firms, venture capital, and angel investors. So there are a wide range of institutional investors, individual investors, and private companies. Public companies are traded on a stock exchange, and private companies are privately held and traded by a few individuals.
Yes, this part is not very much important for us. What is important for the corporation? So there are public corporations, where the stocks are traded on stock exchanges that we have, like Karachi Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange that we talked about. These are government-based companies.
Individual or institutional investor.
And here, it is owned by and traded by a few private investors,
traded by a few individual or institutional investors.
Yes. So how the corporations' stocks or shares are dealt with are based on the investors, institutions, or the parts that we studied in the investment banks that are treating.
Now, the first is an initial public offering, issues securities to the public. Its IPO is its debut.
So we talked about initial public
Then there
offering.
are follow-on equity offerings, and companies buy other businesses are affordable to buy. Important that you're aware of these.
So that was the most important part for us. In the primary and secondary market, we discussed that primary market is a place where the securities are created, and where the companies themselves, they actually issue securities, bonds and shares in order to sell it through the investment banks and through the institutions to the buyers. But in the secondary market, which is a little bit different than that, where the stocks are actually traded in stock markets, in bigger markets, so you are actually dealing with another investor to buy, for example, the stocks of larger companies in the secondary market. So that was basically what we were discussing in the primary and secondary market. Now we have to remember a few topics very much in a simple context. A goal of an corporations are usually wealth maximization oriented, because they want to increase the wealth or share of an organization rather than focusing on the other part, which is the profit maximization. Because we said that in the wealth maximization, what is important and what is mandatory is that you actually try to increase the wealth of a company or a shareholder rather than by focusing on the profits itself. You are actually increasing the value of the business, or you are actually increasing the value of the company, and by actually decreasing the spending and increasing the other part which we discussed was the wealth of a company or the value of a company. Also, in the wealth maximization, the risk-taking behavior is very important. If you are having a corporation, you have to be someone with taking risk, and in order to have a lot of return. Taking risk doesn't mean you spend a lot. You spend less and you take a lot of profit. That is what is basically the corporate finance is doing. So while financial management is something which is managing the financial stuff to the corporations, they're actually planning and organizing how financial resources should be, for example, managed and organized, how for example the accounting should be done, how bookkeeping should be done, how accounts payables and liabilities and investment opportunities and risk and all of this, how you are administrating it, how you are managing it. That is part of the financial management. On the other hand, in the corporate finance, we are focusing on maximizing the profit by يعني مفاد خدا بلند میبریم زیاد میکنیم by minimizing the expenditure and the spending. یعنی قبلا هم گفتیم که ما ریسک میگیریم، اما هدف ریسک ما این نیست که ما زیاد مصرف کنیم، بلکه در کم مصرف ما کوشش میکنیم که maximization of profit is also our focus, but by minimum spending. So we basically deal with the sources of funds, how they are allocated, how decisions are made in capital structure, and how working capital decisions are made, how, for example, capital budgeting is done. And in short, we say that wealth maximization is the proper strategy for corporate finance. But besides the wealth maximization, we focus on taking short-term financial plannings and long-term financial planning in order to have the corporation successful, in order to have a good share in the market, in order to have a maximized profit, in order to have a very good image in the market. These are very important aspects that we should consider and focus on. How we do it, we use various strategies and methods, analysis, in order to get that part done and explained. So, to conclude, up to now, we talked about 3 parts almost. We discussed 3 parts. First, the background of finance, financial management, corporation, corporate finance. Some of the key terms used in the corporate finance: capital budgeting, capital structure, working capital management. And we discussed the goals of corporation, which are profit and wealth maximization. Alongside, we discussed each of them. We talked about which strategy, which goal is good for an organization. We took wealth maximization as a priority for us to take. We also discussed the goals of financial management. We talked about importance of corporate finance, why it is important, and what are the basic things. We talked about primary and secondary market, how primary and second market work into some extent, where in primary market the securities are created, and they are actually the firms that are doing this, helping it, is IPO, initial public offering. And the secondary market, we said that is a place where the investor trade their securities in one way or the other. Each and every country has a stock exchange, like New York, like Karachi Stock Exchange, and etc. We do not have it in Afghanistan. Inshallah, we will be hoping to have one in the coming future. That was all from my side today. Keep in mind your assignments. Without assignment it wouldn't work. Please do work on the assignments. Share it with me on WhatsApp, and I'll also request your CR to add me in your WhatsApp group. You can share it through LMS, and do feel free to ask any questions that you have in regards to the subject through WhatsApp, through LMS. I will be available every time, inshallah, and to answer your queries and questions. Thank you for watching the video. Please share your video with other friends who do not have access to internet. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.